take attendance for this outstanding quorum.
Councilmember Squilla. Councilmember Gautier. Councilmember Jones. Councilmember Young. Councilmember Driscoll. Councilmember Lozada. Councilmember Bass. Councilmember Phillips. Councilmember O'Neill. Councilmember Gilmore Richardson. Councilmember Thomas. Councilmember Harity. Councilmember Ahmad. Councilmember Landau. Councilmember Brooks. Councilmember O'Rourke. Council President Johnson.
Present. A quorum of the committee is present, and we are now officially called to order. Ms. Lawyer, would you please read the title of the resolution?
Bill number 250195, an ordinance amending Chapter 19-1500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Wage and Net Profits Tax by revising certain tax rates under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 250196, an ordinance adopting the operating budget for fiscal year 2026. Bill number 250197, an ordinance to adopt a fiscal 2026 capital budget. Bill number 250198, an ordinance to adopt a capital program for the 6 fiscal years 2026 through 2031 inclusive. Bill number 250199, an ordinance amending Chapter 19-2600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Business Income and Receipts Taxes to revise certain tax rates and end certain exclusions from the tax on receipts, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 250200, an ordinance amending Chapter 1000, the Philadelphia Code entitled Traffic Code to revise the fee for the use of parking meters, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 250201, an ordinance amending Chapter 19-1800 of the Philadelphia Code entitled School Tax Authorization to provide for an increase in the tax the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia is authorized to impose on real estate, and amending Chapter 19-1300 entitled Real Estate Taxes to establish an equivalent reduction in the tax rate for the city real estate tax, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 250202, an ordinance amending Chapter 19-1806 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Authorization of Realty Use and Occupancy Tax to eliminate certain exemptions, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 250210, an ordinance amending Section 10-1001 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Fees of Commissioner of Records to increase the portion of fees for the recording of deeds and mortgages and related documents to be used for housing trust fund purposes under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 250211, an ordinance amending Chapter 19-1400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Realty Transfer Tax, by revising the rate of the tax, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 250212, an ordinance to amend Chapter 19-4400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Development Impact Tax to end the imposition of the tax under certain terms and conditions. Resolution number 250214, resolution providing for the approval by the Council of the City of Philadelphia of a revised 5-year financial plan for the City of Philadelphia covering fiscal years 2026 through 2030 and incorporating revisions with respect to fiscal year 2025, which is to be submitted by the Mayor to the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority pursuant to an intergovernmental cooperation agreement by and between the City and the Authority.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lawhead. Today we will continue the public hearing of the Committee of the Whole to consider the bills read by the clerk that constitute proposed operating capital spending measures for fiscal year 2026, a capital program and forward-looking capital plan for fiscal year 2026 through fiscal year 2031. This morning we have scheduled testimony from the Free Library as well as the Department of Parks and Recreation. This afternoon, we will have scheduled testimony from the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, better known as SEPTA. Ms. Lawhead, could you please call up the first panel to testify?
Kelly Richards, President and Director of the Free Library, and we will also have Susan Slauson, Commissioner for Parks and Rec.
First and foremost, I just want to say good morning and welcome, and thank you for being here as you present your testimony on behalf of the administration. As always, I just want to take a moment when I publicly have a chance to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of the Commissioner of Park and Recreation. Welcome back, Sue Slauson, and thank you for just always being responsive and your leadership as relates to how we continue to move forward with our park and recreational facilities. I also want to acknowledge my good friend I see sitting over there who I had a conversation with this morning, just about every other day regarding constituent services matters, Mr. Frank Faby. And also just want to give a shout out to Aparna and Francesco for always making sure when I'm doing revitalization of my park and recreationals, my parks and playgrounds, they're always responsive and making sure we're on target to revitalize the park and recreational facilities inside my district. So I just want to publicly just say thank you and overall your team. And also, I know we have some good news that we're hearing in this presentation by Mr. Richards. Thank you for your leadership with the Philadelphia Public Library, making sure we're up and running. I think we're up to 6 days, and you'll talk more about the robust things that we're doing in terms of making sure our young people are receiving the best experience when they go to our libraries and overall the community as a whole. So Kelly, I always like the work that you are doing, and I look forward to your presentation. But we're going to start with ladies first with Ms. Sue Slauson, Chairperson of Parks and Recreation. Just state your name for the record and please begin your testimony.
Good morning, Council President. Susan Slauson, S-L-A-W-S-O-N. I want to say thank you for those comments. And I'm the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. With me today are Marissa Washington, First Deputy Commissioner, and Susan Buck, Deputy Commissioner for Operations. And it's a pleasure to be here. I appear before you to present our proposed operating budget for fiscal year 2026, which includes a general fund obligation of $83,535,660, a decrease of $7,384,841 from fiscal year 2025 estimated obligation levels. This decrease is primarily due to one-time payments for contracted bonuses and site preparations for special events in 2026 and non-recurring FY25 youth sports funding. In addition to the department's stewardship of Philadelphia's treasured parks and natural lands, we are continuing to develop and expand programs that advance the mayor's vision for a safer, cleaner, and greener Philadelphia. In the fall of 2024, the Youth Sports and Anti-Violence Initiative provided $244,000 in travel grants through the Philadelphia City Fund to 32 football and cheer teams, an average of $7,625 per team, who qualified for national tournaments in other states. Many of these organizations will also once again have the opportunity to participate in coaching clinics that cover both the physical fundamentals as well as mental health strategies that coaches can employ to support their young athletes. In spring 2025, we are providing $218,000 in grants and partnerships with Philadelphia Youth Sports Coalition to support 70 organizations with grants ranging from $500 to $5,000. 34 organizations received $5,000. PYSC is launching a second round in the late summer of 2025 with a continued focus on those underserved communities. As a part of the Youth Sports and Anti-Violence Initiative, these efforts across organizations, sports, and communities will create more safe spaces citywide for young people to learn, play, and grow. As we provide services to the residents of Philadelphia throughout the year, we remain focused on providing safe spaces for Philadelphia's youth through 95 after-school programs, hosting 2,200 youth, serving over 322,000 meals during the school year, hosting 220 play streets, and offering summer camps for 6,700 youth. Our targeted enforcement program operates from Memorial Day weekend to the late September with support from our Rangers, Philadelphia Police Department, advisory councils, and neighbors. We also continue to prioritize safe spaces in Kensington, and we are grateful for partners such as Impact Services, Friends Groups, CLIP, the Police Department, and the Free Library. Together, we will provide programming at McPherson, Hissey, Hope, and Harrogate Park, as well as after-school programs at Heitzman, Rivera, and Schmidt. As we care for our citizens, we are mindful of the powerful connection and the positive impact that green spaces provide for communities. As stewards of Philadelphia's natural lands, PPR's Sustainability Unit works to maintain, increase, and protect natural resources across the city. The team continues its workforce development efforts to provide hands-on restoration training through Power Corps PHL, Staff will also continue to assess over 100 illegal dumping hotspots on park land. We continue our partnership with the Police Department's Environmental Crime Unit to issue violations for illegal dumping in Fairmont Park. Urban Forestry Tree Team manages over 130,000 street trees. The regional crews manage 10,000 plus acres of parkland, and Storm Emergencies and Natural Lands teams is responsible for 5,000 plus acres of forest, meadows, and wetlands. The growth and care of our urban forests is an environmental justice issue. There are fewer trees where there is more poverty in Black and brown communities. Our Urban Forestry Unit and the Department of Commerce are partnering in a commercial corridor tree planting and care program to plant trees and train taking care of business ambassadors to care for them. To date, 468 trees have been planted and 40 TCB ambassadors have been trained and paid to take care of the trees through this partnership. In closing, many of you have seen the transformative power of Rebuild. It has revitalized long-neglected facilities like Rivera, Heitzman, and others. But even at these renewed sites, there's work that still needs to be done. I hope together we can come up with a plan that fully revitalizes PPR sites and focuses on challenges like lighting and pavements. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss our department with you today, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. Before we hear the testimony from Kelly Richards for the Free Libraries, I want to acknowledge the presence of Councilmember Kendra Brooks, Councilmember Jeffrey J. Young, Councilmember Isaiah Thomas. Mr. Richards, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, President Johnson and members of City Council. I'm Kelly Richards, President and Director of the Free Library. Joining me today is Steve McCary, our Finance Director, and Ty Dupas, our Property Management Director, and we have others from the Free Library team here today too. So I'm pleased to provide testimony on the Free Library's fiscal year of 2026 operating budget. Our mission at the Free Library is to advance literacy, guide learning, inspire curiosity, as part of the mayor's vision to provide a world-class educational opportunity for Philadelphians of all ages and socioeconomic backgrounds. Our plans for fiscal year 2026, at this pivotal moment in our society, public spaces, especially libraries, are more essential than ever. We need trusted sources of information, places for connection, and spaces where individuals can be themselves, discover new passions, or lose themselves in curiosity and creativity. The Free Library of Philadelphia provides invaluable resources to our community, and its role is critical today as it has ever been in our city's history. Aligned with the Mayor Parker's vision, the Free Library is part of creating a safer, cleaner, greener spaces in every neighborhood and access to economic opportunity for all. We are dedicated to uplifting and fulfilling the vital work we do every single day, providing necessary services and support for residents and communities. As we move forward with our strategic planning process, the Free Library is excited to share our vision and commitment to the future. Currently, in the engagement phase, we are connecting with internal and community stakeholders to gather insights that will guide the development of a comprehensive plan for the library's future. These efforts will not only enhance service delivery, but also ensure exceptional customer service for everyone who walks through the library's doors. The Free Library is deeply committed to fostering a more inclusive and welcoming environment by expanding our outreach efforts, developing the new Community Engagement and Volunteer Services Division. We are ensuring that our community programming reflects the diverse needs of the people we serve. These initiatives are designed to ensure that the library authentically reflects the rich diversity of our community and provides services that are accessible to all. In addition, we are focused on expanding access and engagement across the city by increasing our public service hours. After the successful rollout of Saturday service at many libraries, we are now working toward continuing to extend Saturday public service hours to all libraries and eventually including Sunday service hours at key locations by FY27. Combined with strengthened community outreach, partnerships with local nonprofits and other city agencies, these efforts will continue to position the library as a continued vital hub for civic engagement, workforce development, and lifelong learning for all residents. As we grow, we're also prioritizing critical infrastructure improvements to our buildings and information technology to enhance the services we provide for both patrons and staff. We're planning a comprehensive facilities assessment for fiscal year 26. We have several improvements to our buildings and HVAC systems to meet critical needs to keep libraries open. We're committed to updating our beautiful, historic facilities to ensure we continue delivering a world-class user experience. With the ongoing support of our Deputy Managing Director, David Wilson, and the Managing Director's Office, the Free Library Board of Trustees, city leaders, staff, and community partners, the Free Library will remain a safe, accessible, and welcoming space for all Philadelphians to learn, grow, and to connect. The Free Library of Philadelphia is proud to be a place where connections are made and where everyone can find a sense of belonging. So thank you for your continued support as we work together to shape the future of this invaluable, awesome institution.
Thank you very much. Just a couple brief questions before I turn it over to my members. Also want to acknowledge the presence of, I think I said Brooks already, correct? All right, making sure everyone knows. Dr. Nina Mai, Councilmember Mark Squilla, acknowledge their presence for the record. Commissioner Sue Slauson, give me an idea of the status of the master plan and the progress we're making regarding FDR Park. I know it started under the prior administration, significant commitment under Jim Kinney. Under this administration, we still want to make sure that we complete the work that has started. And I know the mayor is a champion of on the revitalization of FDR Park, because we were down there together talking about the great fields that we're going to have, how we're going to revitalize the space as relates to 2026 when the World Cup is coming across the street after the Lincoln Financial Field. So just give us an update on that particular project.
So to let you know, the FDR Park project, those places and spaces that have been funded completely, the Gateway phase has been funded completely, the nature phase has been funded completely, the picnic and play phase has also been funded completely, and I can give you a description of those. The Gateway phase is the Ann Verna, part of the Gateway phase is the Ann Verna Playground, open fall of 2023, park-wide bike lane, America's largest swings, 3-acre inclusive and sustainable play space, new parking lot with stormwater, lights and cameras, new water line, wastewater lines, and electrical connections for the park, and a Patterson Lagoon restoration. And then there's the Gateway Plaza, which will be opening actual ribbon cutting this spring, wayfinding information to help visitors navigate the park, misters for cooling off on a warm day, seating groves with benches for meeting friends and family, rain gardens that create native plants, and flowering understory canopy to absorb stormwater, bike racks to welcome cyclists, raised pedestrian crossing at the Park Loop Road, lighting and security cameras. And then we have the Welcome Center, sir, which should be opening this spring as well. LEED Gold Historic Preservation Project, Public Information and Welcome Center, 6,000 square feet, new offices for park staff, 22,000 square feet, a welcome terrace, food and beverage concessions, community meeting spaces, new parking lot, stormwater management lights and cameras. Phase 1 of the 5-park loop trail. All of this has already been funded, and with that, you also have the construction of 5 multi-purpose fields, which is what, and 4 basketball courts.
And so give me the status of the 5 multi-purpose fields, basketball courts, and where we're at in terms of the funding of that phase.
That's been funded as well. The project is not moving yet, but it will be moving, but it has been funded completely.
So it has been funded
It
completely?
has.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that update. There was an investment of $2.5 million in youth sports initiatives in 2025, but we're only requesting $500,000 for FY26. And so give me an idea of why the significant decrease in the funding requests from last year to this year regarding sports youth initiatives. And then also, I think this is also relevant for the sports fund, which I think was a brilliant idea of the mayor's. How do organizations that want to apply for this funding?
And so we are in partnership with PYSC as well as Philadelphia City Fund, and we're opening up. We just closed the spring grants. They're going to be opening up opportunities for summer grants as well. And so the actual funding that the mayor gave us was $3 million, President Johnson, and we will be getting an additional $500,000 in our budget. But some of the funding was used for supplies that we will not have to purchase again. And, you know, one of the things is we were lacking in updated equipment in our facilities, and we have enough funding to supply additional equipment, upgraded equipment in all of our sites. One of the things that we're going to do also is a boxing program. So we have the funding to purchase all of the equipment for the boxing program. We won't need that funding again in our budget. So a lot of what we're doing, we need funding for one-time purchases, and that $500,000 will assist us in making sure we'll be able to provide the grants for next year for these teams and community people that need support.
Okay, I just have one request. If you and your team could work with members regarding that process, right? Because it's operated by a third party, which is good. But however, we need to make sure we have that connection. And so when members have individual constituencies that want to apply, then we're aware that this upcoming summer, we can relay that information to the youth groups in our individual districts to actually apply for the funding. And I think it's great because our children shouldn't have to be on the highways, on the middle of the streets with their hand out asking for money, where we should be supporting, which I consider our best assets in the city of Philadelphia, which are our children. So,
Council President Johnson, I will make sure today that we will get information over to you so you can ensure that all the other council members can notify their constituents how to apply for the next round of funding.
And last question before I go on to Mr. Richards. We know every year, particularly during the summer, right, we anticipate, right, more youth are outside, more youth are in the playgrounds, more youth are on the basketball courts, and it's inevitable, unfortunately, that we see some level of gun violence taking place on our basketball courts. What are we doing to be proactive and from a prevention standpoint, to the best of our ability, to be in front of this issue? I know we work in partnership with the Philadelphia Police Department, but they can't be everywhere, right? And I know we also work with the advisory boards, the advisory councils, and members of the neighborhood to self-police, you know, our parks and our recreational facilities. But also, I just want to get an idea from your perspective, different strategies that we are doing. For instance, are we turning off the lights at 9 p.m. so young people won't be hanging out in the park, similar to what happened in my district in Southwest Philadelphia? Give me an idea where we're at.
And so our hours during the summer are 9 till 9. And I believe you really did hit it. It's really key that we make sure that lights are out at 9, that the facilities that we have, that we can shut gates, that the gates are locked. And of course, we don't have gates at all of our sites, but the gates that we do have, we're leaning on our park rangers a lot more as well. Well, we're in the process of just trying to make sure that those places where we have gates and we can ensure that the gates are closed. The other thing that helps us is to ensure that the lighting that's needed in our sites, that they're out on the fields until it's time to close the gates. Because you really don't want to get, most criminals are not going to do something when there's a lot of light,
Yes.
right? They want it to be dark. So while our facilities are open, one of the goals is to increase our lighting in our facilities. Those areas in our playgrounds, those areas on our fields where there's limited lighting, we're working to try to improve the lighting to make sure that parents and kids and family members feel safe when they're outside at our playgrounds. And one of the key things that I mentioned, I think it was last week, is that we need community members.
I'm with you on the community member side. Have we ever thought as a city to engage in public-private, like real security? Because just being frank, even though Miss May from the neighborhood and Miss May in the park, or Celine from the neighborhood here in the park, sometimes though, without having that visible presence of authority, some young people still just brazen and still will take a life irregardless. But sometimes that official authority, right, kind of make you think twice about it. So have we ever thought about maybe doing a public-private partnership and bringing in third-party security to supplement the Philadelphia Police Department in areas where they can't be?
Are we talking about armed, or are we talking about security guards?
We could do either one. I know armed, we don't supposed to have firearms inside the park,
Right.
so this body banned that, right? Even if it's not. For instance, you take University City, right? They have one of the models where the individuals who are patrolling in the neighborhood, right, and they're out there all times of the night, you will think twice because there's a visible presence of authority monitoring what's taking place. So even if it's non-armed, have we ever thought about that?
We have, Council
Okay.
President Johnson. We've thought about it, and I think it's something for us to consider. One of the things that we've discussed is if there is a security guard inside, and that's what he's being paid to do, we would also have to think about having presence outside.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to stick to what their job description says. And so now we're talking about additional funding, we're talking
We
about
have an $8
additional...
billion budget. We're talking about the safety of our children. So we spare no expense to keep our children safe.
And so we're talking about having guards inside, outside, and I think one of the things that also helps is that if we could also just fill our complement that we currently have and have the staff that we need in our facilities, if we're bringing in security to work along with the security that you're talking about. So I think it's something we've had conversations about, and we could continue to revisit and come up with a plan on how that could definitely support the safety of our young people. And it's just everyone that comes to our facility. It's not just our young people. It's everybody that comes and wants to be a part of community at our recreation centers, at our parks.
I'm with you, but the ones that are being shot and murdered are our young people.
They
So
are.
I have to say that respectfully. So I do want to do a follow-up. We can talk offline, but I think we know it's coming during the summer. We can anticipate it, and that's unfortunate, right? And so at what point do we do something different? Because the police can't be everywhere. Maybe they'll be in the high crime areas. But at some point in time, we got to think about how we approach this differently. And I believe, we could recruit people from the neighborhood, right? But also I just believe that the official presence make people think twice before they engage in something that's not becoming of our neighborhood. And so I'll be willing to work with you. And from this body, I know members will support me on this, we will spare no expense. This is a negotiation process, and so for us to advocate for what we believe is in best interest of keeping our children safe. The chair recognizes Councilman Jamie Gauthier.
Quick point of information, Council President, you brought up University City District from my district, but I actually wanted to point to Level Up Philly and suggest that we talk to them and maybe partner with them. I've been to their after-school spot several times. Pastor Aaron Campbell, he does have security there, but he also has kids from all over the city, sometimes hundreds of kids. These are kids that have been involved in violence. Some of them are involved with street groups. but they come together peacefully at Level Up. And so I think it's a model for what we could do in our rec centers.
Thank you very much.
And I would look forward to having that conversation with you, because whatever we can do to prevent any more of these homicides, we are willing to do whatever we can. It's not just traumatic for the parents, the children, the relatives. It is traumatic for our staff members that have to run out and try to save the lives of the young people that have been attacked, whether it's a weapon, whether it's a fight. This affects our community all around. And so however we can work together to identify support to make sure that our young people are safe, I'm willing to have that conversation.
Thank you, Commissioner Slauson. Mr. Richards, how many days are we operating currently? And I know you want to go to 7 days a week. Just give us an idea on that strategy. And then last, we know that we had to shut down 20 libraries due to AC issues, heating issues, and so if we're operating 6 days, we're going to 7 days. Obviously, one of the things we should be advocating for is a robust capital campaign to fix up our actual library system, because I'm sure the infrastructure is pretty old. And so give us an update.
Well, Council President, the budgets that we've received the last couple of years have really been significant to do something to move the free library forward in a very positive and optimistic way to serve our neighbors and serve every community. We have advanced our library services to where we're pretty much stable 5 days a week, and right now we have about 30 locations open on Saturdays. That's 30 out of the 54. So our objective is to hire about another 50 more full-time and about 57 part-time people with our municipal guards. And once we reach that figure, we believe we know we'll be able to open 6 days a week consistently throughout the system, and then we'll be able to provide Sunday hours. That's something we have not done in a very, very long time. And could you, what was that second question? Oh, the
Capital plan campaign. We shut down 20 libraries.
Yeah, we've got...
due to faulty heating and faulty air conditioning. So tell me about the capital plan.
Yeah, we've got some very beautiful old buildings with old infrastructure. I was looking at some of the dates of some of the boilers before we came today, and some of them date to the 60s. And now that we're open more, you know, you can look at global warming and all of that too, and we're utilizing the building more, warming and cooling centers. We're putting a lot of strain on some of those systems. So what we have done, and we'll put in the budget and the mayor's budget, was a facilities conditioning assessment, which would give us the ability, instead of searching emergencies, now we'll have a strategic plan that will put in a hierarchy of our boiler issues, and based on cost too, our boiler issues, our mechanical issues, roofing. It'll give us the ability to be very strategic and costing out and budgeting for in a way dealing with priorities all of the issues we are confronted with that we're seeing with our buildings. But we're not waiting for that. In the interim, our teams working with the Capital Project Office, we're looking at the issues we have now and prioritizing those. So that is where we are right now in that particular effort.
What's the overall cost of the capital campaign?
Well, if we're looking, you know, at what
how much you're requesting in this particular budget?
How
much you're requesting in this budget?
In this particular budget, our for 26 is I believe it's $3,850,000.
And have you anticipated your overall capital campaign number?
That will be able to address some of the emergency issues that we see going into this particular year.
Okay. Just want to go on the record. I think my members agree with me. This is something that's critical. The Chair recognizes Councilmember Brooks.
I was wondering, for the staffing needs, do you have a plan to recruit the staff that you need to kind of build up? Because I think there were some shortages that were happening throughout the system. So is it a hiring plan? And towards the building needs, you asked for, what, the 3 million, I wrote it down, 850,000. Is there a 5-year plan? Because you only talked about emergency repairs.
Yes.
What is the long-term strategic plan to maintain the library system? And can we plan for that so we're not just piecemealing this as we go along?
Very good question, Councilwoman. We do have a 5-year plan, but the 5-year plan isn't based on this facilities condition assessment report. Once we get that, we'll be able to have better data to revise that 5-year plan. The 5-year plan now is just based on what we see. But once we get that facilities condition assessment report, that very strategic report, which will be able to prioritize those particular needs that we have, even knowing, and even in the midst of that, we'll still have some emergencies that pop up. But that plan will give us our best guide, and it's something that we don't have and haven't, and it will be a guide for us to be able to put a plan together to bring before you.
And the reason I'm asking, I would hate for the...
Member Brooks, regarding the point of information, we're going to wait till it's your line of questioning. Is that okay? Because this really just you're providing information during the point of information. Now we're engaging in questioning as relates to the presentation. So when we get to your time, we're going to call you so you can officially do a double down regarding his responses. The chair, before we turn it over to members, recognizes Councilmember Curtis Jones.
Thank you so much. So I'm excited about the plans for FDR Park. I mean, I'm gonna bring.
Wait,
I get it. I
don't have Tiger Woods in my district.
I get it. Right.
I don't have Tiger.
But I'm gonna use the two of you in your proximity to illustrate the proximity between the Winfield Library and John Anderson Center. They're right next door to each other. They share a space, right? The majority leader is a Winfield person, so she understands what I'm saying. How, and almost similar to what Member Brooks is talking about, on a strategic plan, you share a same roof. You share the same HVAC. Do you talk about how to maximize those efficiencies because you share a space together, how you can be cost effective in the renovation of that facility and the timing of those renovations? I raise that because we put the money in for the renovations years ago, but we have not seen shovel in the ground. And I can't understand that. In Winfield, as my commissioner knows, that's the town hall. That's where all of the community groups come to go. And we have to be a little more strategic on facilities that we co-operate, how we can create a plan to do that. That's number one. Number two, during the sugary beverage tax, we were promised a group of workers under Frank Faby, the famous Frank Faby. Is he here? Because he's actually a myth. Is he actually in the room? There he is. He's actually, he exists. We were supposed to get a workforce of trained workers under him. I know we hired him, but it's my understanding, not under your watch, I'm gonna say it 3 times, not under your watch, that those positions were then used to backfill people that retired. So therefore, it was not a net gain. We were told that if we paid out of the budget for the materials, we'd have the labor, this would be a more efficient time-wise production of renovation of needed renovations in our smaller facilities. Those two questions, my first round. Joint shared footprints, are you working together? And what happened to our laborers?
Well, I guess I'll start. One of the things we're doing with the Capital Projects Office is we all are working together.
Say that again.
From the Kelly Free Library, we are all working together with the Capital Projects Office on these projects where we're rebuilding and remodeling, especially if the rec center and the library is aligned and close together and share the
So
same roof.
give me the example of Winfield and Anderson. How's that working together? That case in specifics.
I believe that particular question would probably be best.
Sir, please, Councilman. If I could ask for Aparna Palatino, who is now in charge of capital projects, to come up and respond to that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Aparna Palantino, Director, Capital Program Office. Councilmember Jones, thank you for your question. So one of the most important facets of rebuild was to prioritize sites that are co-located, so Winfield Library and Anderson Cultural Center being a prime example of that. So as to not disrupt operations, Winfield is actually under construction currently with an outdoor renovation and classroom space expected to be completed later this summer, as soon as the grass establishes. And John C. Anderson, once that's completed, John C. Anderson Cultural Center is actually in design, and construction will begin right afterwards.
So to answer my question, on shared properties, you have an efficiency plan that says if I have to replace the HVAC in one, we might as well extend it to the other and get it done in one stroke.
Yes, so we evaluate the HVAC, every system for the individual assets. In the case of Anderson and Winfield, we are actually separating the HVAC, so John C. Anderson will get a separate dedicated HVAC system.
So I would dare to use the W word, like when is that going to happen?
That will start in the late summer, early fall.
Got you on the record. Thank you very much. The Frank Faby question?
I cannot answer that. I don't want to speak for Parks and Rec, sorry.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Majority Leader Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Quickly, I'd just like to thank Councilmember Jones. I rise with a parliamentary inquiry regarding the statement from Aparna. If you could give us the exact times, I couldn't hear you, the exact month and year for the John C. Anderson Cultural Center project.
The John C. Anderson Cultural Center project is in design, wrapping up design, so construction is expected to start this fall of this year, 2025.
So because of time constraints, I cut out all of the thank yous I want to give all of you. Just consider that an asterisk next to it, because I do truly appreciate all you've done for my rec centers, even though they're not in South Philly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The chair recognizes Dr. Anthony Phillips.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to briefly say thank you to Council President for entrusting me with the role of being chair of Parks and Recreation. All the members have a briefing that I provided as a result of the work that we've done with Parks and Recreation this year with our committee about some of the great things that are coming from Parks and Recreation, but also some things that we're hoping to make progress towards. When I first started this, I'm going to go into my questions really quickly. When I first started this, I was adjusting to this role, and it took me a little while to understand what to do, but I was thanks to the veterans like Councilmember Thomas, Gaudier, and Gilmore Richardson, I was able to observe what they do as chair people of their committees and try to adopt what we do with this committee. And so I've gotten a little used to it, and we've made a lot of strides. I want to just begin by thanking Commissioner Slauson, who works really well with our mayor and also has been a great advocate for our Parks and Rec system. She's doing a great job. But all of her staff members, from Sue Buck to Anne Marie to Frank Faby and Marissa, thank you all so much for the work that you're doing. Let's continue to do it. I do want to note that on our tours that I did with our committee members, we noticed a few things that's happening at our rec centers. One of them includes the need for a welcoming space for our rec centers in terms of lighting in and outside of the spaces. That was noticed by a lot of our staff, Parks and Rec, and it was a continued thing, as well as most of our rec centers have extensive paving issues that are needed. I just wanted to see if Commissioner, if you can talk more to the public more about, the need for LED lighting as a welcome space, as well as for our staff in and out, as well as our paving as well.
As many of us, Susan Slauson, as many of us are familiar with our facilities, the age of our facilities are, except for the ones that have been a part of rebuild, they're 50 years and older. And so we're dealing with sites that have lighting issues because of the type of lights. They're not LED, lights that need to be replaced really often, but we're also lighting systems that they're dim. Our facilities are dim. We need to do a better job at upgrading our lighting system, not only inside, but outside as well. And so as we were doing the tours, Dr. Phillips has it set up where we go out monthly to tour our sites. And it actually benefited me as well, coming back as a new commissioner. And what we were observing is that the lighting inside our facilities for our young people, for our staff, is really not up to par. And I believe we owe it to our young people that are using the facilities and the staff that are working to do a better job at upgrading the lighting system. But also, we noticed for paving around our rec centers, they're crumbling. And it's a challenge. And so we have some of these beautiful sites where you have rebuild facilities, but the paving around the rec center has not been a part of the scope. And so you walk into a beautiful they hit it on there because the paving around there is complete. But you go to some of the other sites, they're not. And so I'm soliciting just some support, something that we can look into to see if we can address. It's a risk for the city of Philadelphia to have the pavement. We're talking about making sure that we're clean, we're green, we're beautiful, we're safe. It is not safe when you have paving that you have to be concerned about. And so that's some of what we saw, and we did come up with some numbers for lighting, inside and out. Paving is something that we would have to look into, but I'm hoping we can work together to figure out how we can address the paving issue at our facilities.
And I just wanted to mention that really quickly, and then I'll turn it back over to everyone else. I mention this because our ITEF funds will be...
Could you speak into the microphone, please?
I mention that because our council member ITEF funds, which is what we do to help, our own rec centers, would be completely exhausted if we try to do paving for our own rec centers. So this is certainly something that I thought about that we should have been having a maintenance strategic plan on every year since the 80s and 90s, and we just haven't done that. So we do a little by little in our budget, we can get to our rec centers to the spaces where they need to be. So I'm hoping that we can, change that. And then if I just get one quick question in about our seniors space. We also observed with our rec centers that we have, they're open 1 to 9 p.m., and which is, our seniors like to come out early and what would need to be happening in our programming so that we can be able to maybe make our rec centers more conducive to our seniors? Because we only have a little bit of older adult centers in our district. We don't have, in our districts, not that many. So, you know, what would need it from a funding mechanism? What would be needed from a funding mechanism so that we can be able to make our rec centers more friendly for seniors in our morning?
So our senior centers are open from 9 until 5.
Right.
Our rec centers for our young people are open from 1 until 9 during the winter months. Seniors like to go in before it gets too dark. They like to be in the comfort and safety of their homes. But there are always opportunities for them to participate after 5 in a recreation facility that's close to where they live. And so it's just a matter of us providing programming and having the necessary staff to meet their needs.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. I appreciate it and look forward to doing work on this committee.
And we do commend you for, y'all received a grant regarding autism, playground equipment to also address those who may have disabilities. And also, are we exploring like playground equipment for seniors, or the types of things that singing apparatus that singers like to enjoy?
We are intentionally trying to create in our system equipment for not only seniors, but for, as you said first, Council President Johnson, autism. I want to say that Council Member Driscoll is having a universal center playground put up in his district, and it's intentionally for people, young people that have challenges. And so it is our responsibility to make sure that we're meeting everyone's needs, and I believe that. So you all are making it happen. So I commend you all for ensuring that you're holding us to the fire to provide services for everyone, not just for the kids that can jump up and get on something high, but for those kids that are in wheelchairs, those kids that are struggling. We're starting to build our system up to ensure that we're meeting those needs as well.
I just wanted to really quickly commend you about the work that we're doing. The reason why we have such a good turnout here is just showing that all of our council members are invested in our libraries and Parks and Rec, and that's not for every committee. And I think that's why we're going to have a lot of questions to support you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The chair recognizes Councilman Jim Hardy, then Vice Chair Parks and Recreation Center, Vice Chair Parks and Recreation, Member Cindy Bass, then Member O'Rourke.
Thank you, Council President. How are you? Hello, everybody. How are you today?
Good morning, sir.
I have lots of questions, but I'm going to save my rebuild questions for the second round. And I'm going to ask about our compliance with the HOPS law. What steps has the administration taken to comply with the HOPS law and eliminate toxic synthetic herbicides used in city grounds? And, you know, just for point of reference, are you aware that juries have repeatedly found Bayer Monsanto liable for serious health harms caused by Roundup and other toxic synthetic herbicides on the grounds that the manufacturer knew these products posed a clear and present danger to human health and failed to warn the public? For example, a $2.25 billion jury award in January 2004 that was later reduced to $400 million, and a $78 million verdict in October 2024 were both issued in Philadelphia courtrooms. Just trying to figure out, does the city continue non-compliance with the HOPS law, exposed not only to the public but ongoing health risks, but also the city itself to significant legal and financial liabilities? You know, as I said, $2.2 billion was just one award that was granted, and us still continuing to use these products are putting not only our workers, but everybody in our city at harm when they go to a park. This is important to me because I came from the laborers union, and my union was to say the least, highly affected by this. We're the ones that actually spray that stuff on an industrial level in most of your things, especially my union, Local 57.
What's the question, Mr. Harity?
The questions are there. Can you answer what I asked? Or?
Good morning. My name is Sue Buck, Deputy Commissioner of Operations.
The Sue Buck. Hey, Sue. How you doing?
Good morning.
Sue been around, like, handling business. Good to see you, Sue.
Our staff receives pesticide training yearly and are trained on proper application of pesticides on public spaces. We do adhere to the hops bill. We keep track of what is sprayed, how much is sprayed, where it's sprayed, and we turn that into the chief clerk yearly, that information. It's also available by a right to know request for those who have requested that. So we do adhere to that. We did some pilot testing with other non-herbicide products, and we continue to do that, working closely with Penn State and their academics team. So we do follow you can't spray 50 feet from play equipment. You can't spray in gardens, food-producing gardens.
But you're still spraying.
Well, we do spray as needed, yes. We have staff that is trained, we do spray. I mean,
No, I get that our staff are trained too. It didn't stop them from getting cancer. I get it. Things happen though. And the bottom line is this stuff is basically outlawed and we're still using it. And I don't care where you're spraying it. Everywhere that you're spraying it is a hazard. It's going to eventually get somewhere. That stuff goes into the ground, gets pushed around by water going through. It's pure physics. You know what I'm saying? And it goes to other places. So no matter where you're spraying it, we're still going to have a problem. And, we're not, we're talking about a place where kids play. And that's why my concern is that this chemical is still being used, whether it's not being used near the playground sets or not. Kids have a tendency to roam and get into other spaces. So,
Right. What we were spraying is similar to the products like Roundup that you would use at your home to spray the weeds in the at your home. It's not where it's honestly it's very labor intensive to remove all the weeds surrounding all of our playgrounds.
I'm very familiar with it.
We are following the guidelines outlined in the hops bill the best that we can.
Right. So to the best that you can. So you're not actually following.
Well, we
the
have
guidelines
not.
Because you're still spraying.
We are following it. We
There's
have not
chemicals.
stopped spraying herbicide. We spray it as needed.
Councilor, I don't get it. How can you're still spraying and still be in compliance?
We comply with the hops bill, I can say that, yes. And we track everything that's sprayed, where it's sprayed, how much, what is being used.
Can I have is there any way, is there a reason why we're not using something else as opposed to this?
There are
particular
organics.
spray?
That's what I'm getting.
Can we use
We have done some testing and the organic material it's not working. It's not working.
So I would ask that you and the chairman of Parks and Rec and member Jim Harity, chairman of Labor, if we can do a follow-up, because I guess there's a difference between a little harming. For us, there's no difference between harming is harming, and so we're doing everything we can on our behalf as a city to see what all the other alternatives. And I'm sure if you're saying you tried some and they don't work, something has to work somewhere. And if not, I mean, this is the norm across the country that this is the way it's done. So I'm sure somewhere else probably don't use this same type of spray product, pesticide product.
So, Council President Johnson and Councilmember Haggerty, what we will do if, as you said, if it's possible, if we could have a meeting outside of this conversation, and we'll start looking into other alternatives to see how we can venture away from using those things that are harmful. And I will say, we just need to find out what works in other places. It may not happen next week, next month, but we will start doing our due diligence to see how we can make the necessary changes to make sure that all of us are safe.
Yeah, I agree. I'm doing a resolution next week, so it'll be a lot sooner than you think. We're going to bring in some people and talk about it, because this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is a non-starter.
Thank you, Member Harry.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think, Member Bass, you worked on this issue.
Yeah, this was my bill.
Vice Chair of, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President, yes.
A little familiar.
This was my bill.
The
So
floor
I
is
would-
yours. You can.
Yeah, thank you,
follow.
sir. So I would like to be included in that conversation
Yes.
as the author of the bill, and to, be as helpful as possible. Because people do get sick. Like, people are getting sick from this stuff. And we can't act like it's not happening. So I would very much like to be included and try to find some alternatives.
And we're actually grateful. This is what we're supposed to be doing, making sure that we can find the safest opportunities to ensure that our playgrounds and our parks are safe. So we look forward to this conversation and coming up with alternatives to address it.
And just for the record, now I think about how really important it is just to be real. And me and my kids, we were at Chew yesterday. So we're on the field, and we're having fun, and we're playing baseball, and they're practicing track. I'm going to talk to Councilman Jones about their track stride, and we also at Wharton Square Park, and we're going to play tennis during the summer. So we're actually in the parks and recreational system enjoying ourselves, but now I guess this is a whole different level, because my own children out there now, and it probably makes it even more intentional in terms of how we need to address this issue in terms of all kids. But my kids actually, I'm not just sitting here as the council president, but as a dad, we utilize park and recreational spaces with our children. But the floor is yours, Member Bass, and you will be a part of that conversation.
That'd be great. Thank you, Mr.
Councilmember Jones?
Could I be included in that discussion? 70% of the park is in the 4th Councilmanic District, so we have a vested interest in that.
Yes, sir, Member Jones. Chair recognizes Member Bass.
Thank you. Oh, you just had to say that, 70% of the time. You just had to say that.
Well, City Hall's located in the 5th Councilmanic District, so.
We hate it. No, but it's all good. It's all love. So good morning. Good morning. And so I want to thank you actually for being willing to have that conversation. Commissioner, I know that under previous administration and the last administration, it really just felt like it was a shutdown around the conversation, like, no, we're not going to do it, period. And so I appreciate that you're willing and open, because that's sort of like a cultural shift. It's a change in the mindset around, protecting our environments and protecting our workers. So I just wanted to say kudos around that matter. Speaking of parks, I just have a few questions, probably going to have to go into a second round. First question, if we could be brief. When I was chair of Parks and Rec, we used to, every 4 years, do the authorization around members for the Fairmont Park Commission. And I have not seen that come up. Are we still authorizing? We stopped, the last time we were supposed to do it was during COVID. And of course, COVID stopped everything. It was, right at the exact same time. And it got pushed to the wayside. So I'm just wondering, do we have a Fairmount Park or a Parks and Recreation Commission now? Are we bringing that back? Do we need to bring it back? Do we need to dissolve it? I'm just wondering, because I know that there were some folks who were really active and engaged and involved, and who really wanted to be a part of the system.
Thank you for that question, Councilmember Bass. As a matter of fact, the mayor has put that on my agenda to make sure we can reconvene. So we're in the process of having that conversation to reconvene the Park Commission.
Excellent. And so we'll all be notified so as people ask us, we can let them know.
Yes.
And the other thing I just wanted to say briefly is that you're just so modest that you forgot to mention, as the council president was talking about safety in our rec centers, what we debuted last night, which is Playing It Safe in the 8th, which is a pilot program, Mr. President, around keeping our playgrounds and recreation centers safe during the summer months. As I had mentioned last night, during the summer, we all get very, very nervous because, young people are gathering, like tempers get hot, people get into arguments, and things start to happen. This is a plan and a program that was piloted by Parks and Recreation under Commissioner Slauson's leadership to make sure that we have boots on the ground, which is specifically PAN, and having those guys out and about as trusted messengers on site at the center. So we're going to do 4 centers in the 8th District. I'm super excited about that. And I just wanted to know if you wanted to add on anything about that, because this is a game changer, I believe. And once we spread it around the city, it's going to be very impactful.
Thank you for remembering and bringing that up. I think it's important that everyone that's willing to be a part of making sure that our rec centers and our young people are safe. And this is just one of those opportunities that we can use in your district. And like you said, make sure we spread it out. All the support that we can possibly get to help us with our young people and safety. And so I'm looking forward to this because they're definitely ready, willing, and they're going to make a big difference in the 8th.
Excellent, excellent. And I just have one other thing, and if you could answer this briefly. Internet service at our rec centers. We are constantly getting beat up, I will say, by members of our community who have been asking for internet and, to be able to access Wi-Fi for a very long time at some of our centers, including, I'll just mention Stenton Park, which was built prior to your arrival as commissioner, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, I think it opened up. But we just assumed that it would be ready for Wi-Fi, but it wasn't. And so now we're sort of like starting over, but then I understand a contract was just recently signed with Verizon. Can you give us an update on that to get Wi-Fi in our centers?
So iNet is going to be a game changer in our systems because we have been struggling throughout our system with not just young people and adults that want to come into the facility and use it. Our staff, they were struggling, but because of this partnership with Verizon and iNet, it's just taking a little longer because some of our buildings, because of the age, we had to also figure out, we had to find somebody to come in and run the wires. It wasn't as easy as just coming and setting up. We literally had to have wires run throughout the facilities. And so there were 183 facilities. 90% of those are rec centers. But when this is finished, it's supposed to be 24, Marissa, is it a year or 24 months? It's supposed to be 24 months total.
Okay.
So I want to say that, believe it or not, 183 facilities, let's say 18 months from now, we'll be able to say all of our facilities have this Verizon iNet and make a difference to those locations you're concerned about.
Super. I'll come back to more of my questions on the next round. But can you give us a list? Can you give Parks and give the chairman a list of what has been done, what centers have been done, and what's in order to, come up and, what's happening next in terms of Wi-Fi, just so that when people ask us, we can answer and give them a good guesstimate as to when Wi-Fi will be coming to their center.
We will provide Council President a list, Councilmember Bass, of what's been done, what's going to be done, and hopefully we can give you an idea when this will be complete as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember O'Rourke, then Councilman Ketty-Lozada, then Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has been quite the exchange this morning already. Good morning to you, Director Richards, as well as Commissioner Slauson.
Member O'Rourke, could you speak into the microphone, please?
Oh. Very rarely am I told that I'm too quiet. Thank you very much. Good morning to you. I'm going to try to get my questions out. A lot of it has kind of been touched on in bits and pieces through the exchanges that have probably already taken place, but there are some nuances that I want to try to raise out of them. And I'll start with you, Director Richards. As Leader Brooks mentioned in her point of information at the top, the library's proposed budget includes funding for over 1,000 positions, and we also know that many of those remain unfilled, that hiring is slow, and attrition is actually outpacing recruitment. We're also hearing directly from workers that there's a serious retention crisis, that workers are actually demoting themselves rather than seeking promotion because of inadequate support, being asked to do too much with too little. Supervisors are overseeing dozens of employees, entire facilities without compensation or resources to match. What's the administration doing to both accelerate hiring and create conditions that retain and support the staff who actually keep our libraries running and actually want to advance in those leadership positions?
Thank you, Councilman. The more people we hire alleviates stress on management for our team. So if we're able to fill more of these positions, it'll alleviate some of that, again, it'll alleviate some of that stress for the workload that staff have been carrying on for a long time. So I believe as we bring more people on board, they'll have more support to provide the necessary programming that our staff are engaging in all of our neighborhoods.
Thank you, sir. I also strongly support the scaling up services, as the Free Library of Philadelphia plays a vital role in providing access to literacy, to learning, workforce development opportunities for all residents. We have heard from workers that basic supplies are sometimes being purchased out of pocket. I think this was mentioned by the president at the top of the questions here, particularly due to issues with the purchasing system itself, and that branches are regularly closing because of the HVAC failures that could be prevented. What steps can we take to ensure that this expansion is built on a solid foundation, where infrastructure is functioning properly, and where our frontline workers are properly equipped to carry out this critical mission? More specifically, would it be possible to receive a map of the libraries that are, or the rec centers that are currently at risk due to these infrastructure challenges? Like if we could have like a list of them, a map of them, and kind of know specifically where they are.
Just make sure I understand your question. You're looking for a map of libraries that have building?
I believe there was a memo that was sent out in the line of while this was going on that I think the libraries are actually are straight on the HVAC issues. So if it's not libraries, then so be it. But it is a question, I guess, for both libraries as well as Parks and Rec. If we could get like a map of the sites that actually have these issues with the HVAC, that would be, I think, particularly helpful.
Okay.
Okay. I have some other questions, but I'll wait for my second round. Thank you, Mr. President. Okay. Let me shoot to this in here. Since 2019, Commissioner Slauson, there have been more than, and again, the president lifted this up already, 300 shootings at our near Parks and Rec centers. And as you spoke to, workers are actually reporting being placed in unsafe conditions without sufficient backup. Now, public safety takes varied forms, and I believe it is essential to focus on approaches that further meet communities' needs, such as having social workers and municipal guards on site. These are DC 33 jobs, these are DC 47 jobs that are just waiting. We see other departments like the Free Library have these resources. Similar to what I said to President Johnson's question, what's the department's comprehensive strategy for public safety at recreation centers? These particular workers, like the municipal guards in particular, social workers, these roles and approaches are specifically well suited to supporting well-being and fostering positive relationships, particularly at high-need youth-serving sites like Parks and Recs. And more specifically, how might we work together to expand the presence, again, of municipal guards and of social workers to create not just safety that we can see, but also that we can feel, that we can kind of cultivate in those spaces?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember O'Rourke. As far as the shootings and the public safety questions, Commissioner Bethel laid out some amazing statistics of what has happened since 2019 up until now, and how the numbers have decreased. And he also talked about how it's 3.6% of his total crime that happens around recreation facilities. I probably can't address that any better than he did, honestly. But as far as the municipal guards and the social workers that you're talking about, I think that's a conversation that we would have to sit down and have a conversation about to come up with some type of a plan for staffing, how much staff, a pilot program. It's not something I could honestly sit here and say, this is how this could work. I can tell you that we currently have trauma-informed programs in 6 of our sites right now, because we recognize how difficult it is for some of our young people and even our adults to deal with some of the issues that are going on in the community.
1,000%. I think some of that was some of Councilwoman Gautier's work, I believe. I know some of those were in West Philly, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, having a more robust understanding of what providing care as well as protection is at our rec centers. And to the President's point, you know, again, freshman year and a couple months in, but I think we will all agree that we would spare no expense on making sure that we can provide those sorts of protections. And I do think there's public-private partnerships, and there's also literally DC 33, DC 47 workers whose jobs it is to be social workers, to be municipal guards, and leveraging that, I think, would only make our safety infrastructure at Parks and Rec that much better. So I would love to be a part of that conversation if that would be okay. But I've already been on the man's mic too long. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Member O'Rourke, the chair recognizes Councilman Ketty Lozada, then Chairman of Appropriations, Mark Squilla.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you for being with us this morning. I'll start really quick with the free library. Libraries are, or should be, community hubs in our neighborhoods. I have a question about the Frankfurt Library, beautiful, brand new building, never open. And so I'm just trying to figure out why. Are we missing, are we crossing? My staff has been there multiple times. We've called and left messages to try to figure out how we connect residents with the programming in that space, and we can't ever get anyone there. And so I was just wondering whether it is open, it's not open, how do we connect, what's the best way?
Okay, sorry, Councilwoman, good question. Just wanted to make sure I get the correct day. The second week in May is when the Frankfurt Library will be open.
What was that?
Second week in May.
The second week in May, it will be open.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And then that was my only question for the library, because in my other libraries, they're operating, they're doing what they need to do for communities, and so I'm grateful for the partnership that we've been able to have with my office, so thank you for that. Commissioner Slauson, I also want to thank you for the walkthroughs that we've been able to do in the different centers of my district. I think that we're on the same page, that just because we don't have new spaces, that doesn't mean that they can't be clean spaces. And so I'm a stickler for cleaning. I want to put on the record that the person that you have at our Ferco Recreation Center should be given a raise, because he does an amazing job at making sure that not just that rec center is clean, but that entire park space is clean, as well as ensuring that the fields are clean, that the sidewalks are clean, and that Piccoli is also clean. And I don't think that that's fair. While I'm extremely grateful to him and all that he does in our community, I think that expecting one person to maintain two very heavily used spaces is just not acceptable. And the response that we got from some of the members of your team is that there's a part-time person at Piccoli, and so as we look to do more in Piccoli, as we look to renovate Piccoli, is there an opportunity to find someone that's going to be able to maintain this space at Piccoli, or the area at Piccoli? Because, you know, it doesn't make sense to invest so much money and then not be able to sustain what we are investing in.
Thank you for that question, Councilmember Lozada. And yes, we will have additional support at Piccoli and not split the time for the gentleman that is actually covering FERCO, which is a huge facility, which has its own challenges. He should have support, and he should not be at both sites. So we'll manage that, and we'll make sure that there's a specific person assigned to Piccoli.
And speaking of sustaining, right, we're investing a lot of money in all of these rebuild projects. Do we have a system in place that will allow us to see these investments taken care of for years to come?
So we don't currently have a system in place, Councilmember Lozada, but I am working on getting an asset management system in place. Because what happens, if we don't, and I'll use Rivera and I'll use VER, for instance, if we don't have an asset management system in place, 20 years from now, the challenges that we see at some of these facilities, we will see at those sites. And the goal is to plan out, to know when the air conditioner is supposed to be replaced without it dying, to know when the floors need to be redone, to know when it needs to be painted again. And we have pro forma, which is very limited. So I'm working on a plan. We've actually had some of our team put together a proposal to come up with an asset management. It really is about looking past next week, next month, next year. If we want to keep our system up, clean and green and safe, we have to do the planning now. And so once we get this asset management system, we'll be able to identify what needs to be done in our sites prior to, and not waiting until the facility again looks like it's 20 years old. That defeats the purpose of creating and building all these new facilities. So we are working on a plan, and we actually have the proposal. So we will have an asset management system in place at some point because we recognize the need.
Thank you. And will that include things like preparing for the openings of our pool spaces? We have a ton of pools. Summer comes every year, right? And so some of the frustrations that I experience is that we're not prepared because we need tanks, we need something. Is that management system going to include those kinds of things? And more importantly, are our pools all going to be ready for opening at the beginning of the season?
That system, that asset management system will include everything in our system that we need to maintain and be on top of. It is about maintenance for these sites, and the answer to your question, we will have 63 of our pools open. The other pools are under some type of a construction or a part of rebuild, which would be our 7 additional pools, but 63 will be open this summer.
Thank you. Do you have time for one more? No? Okay, thank you.
Real brief, please.
Round two is fine. Okay, I'm going.
I do have a question. Well, I'll be brief. I want my members to answer. I'll ask mine in the second round. But as a matter of equity, I know in Ketsy's district, right, when you ride through Huntington Park, they have the swimming pool with all the nice, like art stuff, that's swimming pool stuff on the gates. It's very, very colorful. I think all the playgrounds, swimming pools should have it, because that's very, 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 very nice. And it's very, very she. I asked Tumar about it last year. He said like some type of partnership. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. It's called Swim Philly.
Yes.
And they identified certain pools where it's actually gorgeous. And you know what? Every pool should have it. I'm going to
whatever we need to do budget-wise to support, because it felt very, very she when I was up there. Like, okay, this is nice. So we're putting in that as official request for support.
We can provide you with that information.
Equitably across the city of Philadelphia. The chair recognizes Councilmember and Chairman of Appropriations, Mark Squilla. Then we'll have Councilmember Majority Leader Catherine Gilmore Richardson, and then we'll have Jeffrey J. Young, and then Jamie Gaudier.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you guys for being here, and you know we're all big advocates for both the libraries and our parks. And thank you, Mr. Richards, for your responses to our many emails and concerns. I know somebody had asked earlier, you had mentioned, I think it was Council President, asked about the resources needed for our HVAC systems and why some of our libraries have been closed. Do you think that the current budget ask will allow us to repair the current ones, but also, I know you were saying you were putting a list together of capital improvements necessary to replace a lot of the old HVAC systems throughout the libraries. Is that something that would be in a future ask, or will that be asked in this budget, or how would that work?
Well, the great thing about this budget is we've got the buildings conditioning assessment. What that'll do is give us the opportunity to find out what our true needs are, rather than going after each emergency that takes place. So this will give us, and it ties in even to our strategic plan. This gives us a strategic plan for our buildings, and we can prioritize what needs to be done. But in the interim, is what's based in our budget now, is what we know of now and what we can work on to get fixed. But the assessment is going to give us the true data that we need to be able to present to you what our overall needs are for the whole system, and it's something we've never had before.
So no longer just, this money is just to patch things, keep them working as long as possible.
Correct.
So they can be replaced.
Correct.
And then the assessment will tell us what that total cost is and what is needed. And
It will tell us what our major needs are going forward, because again, like I said earlier, some of these systems date back to the 60s.
Right. All right, well, thank you. I want to continue to work on that and hopefully work with council and administration on providing enough resources necessary to make sure that not only Ivory Library is open 6 days, but hopefully get into 7 days with the not being closed because of either staffing or because of HVAC concerns.
Yes.
And I think that's the goal of everybody here. Parks and Rec, Commissioner Slauson, thank you so much for all your advocacy and work, and your team. They're always very responsive. This is something we've been asking every year, and it's usually of the removal of dead trees and getting rid of some of the diseased or dangerous trees so we could replant in those locations. Do we have enough money in our budget, or we need to add money into our budget to make sure that I know there was a new assessment done. I guess we could ask Sue or to see if we have enough resources to be able to address the removal and of the dead trees. Hi.
Hello, I'm Erica Smith-Fitchman. I'm the city forester. Happy to answer that question. So we, last year with the $500,000 increase in tree maintenance money, we were able to prune 2,700 trees. So that's more than twice what we were able to do in the 2 years prior. And we have been able to eliminate, with the money we are spending on on-street tree removals this year, we will be able to eliminate all of the dead and hazardous trees that are on our list. That's what we know of. Of course, trees are being added to that list every day. The existing backlog of trees to be removed is around 3,000 across the city. And that's about $2.6 million.
So you would need additional $2.6 million in this year's budget. Would you have the capacity to do that in a year?
It would have to be a phased thing to work up to that, yes. But we have a certain amount of money in the budget. Well, we hope to have a certain amount of money in the budget to tackle a bunch of those in FY26.
Excuse me. I have a point of information. Dr.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes, thank you. Just point of information. He just said that you said 3,000 backlog of trees that would need to be pruned. But what would be needed to actually get that done? You said $2.6 million, but in terms of staffing, what would be needed? Because I know it's hard to find arborists to do it. So are we coming up with a plan to make that happen? That's all. I just want to see what's the timeline? Because the residents want a timeline, and how can we make that a priority?
So in terms of staffing, we do have a new inspector coming on in June, and we have a couple of vacancies that we are actively filling to increase our inspector capacity, because every one of those trees needs to be inspected to determine the condition, what the priority is on the list for removal. So we do have our staffing plan that we are working towards. We also have existing contractors that can take on additional work. Over time, we need large amounts of money over time to increase capacity up to being able to do 3,000 trees in a single year. We've never done something quite that big before. So as we receive more money over time, we can increase our yearly production on tree removals. Yes.
Member Squilla.
Thank you, and it's great because you guys have been very responsive to our inquiries one-off, but I mean, it's great to have that full plan together, and I guess an amount that we could work on council with the administration to see what is necessary to do that, because I do believe by removing the dead ones, we could even plant more trees in those areas. And instead of reducing our canopy, growing our canopy, which I think is the goal. And I really, one other thing I want to say is the appreciation of the maintenance of the trees, the tree trimming that has been done has been greatly appreciated, because that also adds to some of the damage when we have these windstorms and other things, that these big branches end up coming off, end up having to remove a whole tree, when if we could have maintained them, we wouldn't have to do that in the future. So thank you all for your great response, and looking forward to continue working with you on this. Appreciate it.
And I just want to just follow briefly, and that's a matter of public safety. Now, I just called Frank Fraby the other day to assist me, because Cobbs Creek Parkway, 63rd and Whippy Avenue, I think it's either me or Jamie's district, but it's along the same area. We're adjacent to one another. I had to call them because it was posted that this huge tree branch came down and it totally blocked the whole street, right? And it went viral, and I called Frank Fabi, I called Keith Warren, and Keith Warren said this is under Parks and Recreation. But the debris was able to be removed, but as a matter of public safety, if somebody wasn't paying attention, they would have ran into that debris and, could have started a fatality on Cobb Street Parkway. So whatever we need to do, in $2.5 million, $6 million out of $8 billion is nothing. It's just, do we have the capacity to staff up and make it a priority to get it done in a very, very timely fashion? So whatever we can do as an ally, we want to make sure we get it done. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Kathy Guillermo Richardson, then Councilmember Jeffrey J. Young, Gaudier, then Dr. Nina Mines.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Council President, and thank each of you for being here and for your work. I'm going to quickly start off with my thank yous and then go into just a couple questions I have, primarily on capital side for the libraries. But I have to reiterate for Parks and Rec that I second the information and questions shared by Councilmember Curtis Jones Jr., who is also my district council member, regarding my concern around the John C. Anderson Cultural Center. For the record, we have no recreation center or cultural center in Winfield at all. We have nothing for our young people. So even at the town hall we had the other evening, someone approached Councilman Jones and I regarding the John C. Anderson Cultural Center. So I just want to underscore what he stated, that we really want to get the John C. Anderson Cultural Center up and running. It also serves as one of our polling places in the 52nd Ward. So thank you very much to the Free Library of Philadelphia for accommodating an additional polling place request due to the library, due to the cultural center being closed. But thank you very much to Kelly Richards, Christina Patton, Chris Caputo, Felina Hand, who's a Girls High girl, and over at the Winfield Library specifically, branch manager Susan Ben, Miss Mary and Miss Ethel. We appreciate all of those team members from the Free Library of Philadelphia. And from Parks and Rec, of course, our commissioner, who is always responsive, Susan Slauson. We thank you very much for your commitment to the city of Philadelphia. Sue Buck, we don't get to see you a lot, but we see you via email. You are just always so helpful with all of our constituent cases, particularly the ones regarding tree maintenance. So thank you very much. And Beth says thank you. And then I saw Chris Creelman, thank you for the rebuild updates and for your service to the city, even back to your Councilmember Kajewski days. But really quickly for the Free Library, I know Council President talked about the capital request. And as my colleague, Councilmember O'Rourke stated, we did receive information during the hearing regarding the capital capital request. I know that I asked in advance of the administration team. I don't know if Sabrina or Rob are here to respond to this question, but I asked for a breakdown of all of the proposed capital investments specifically for the Free Library of Philadelphia prior to this budget hearing. I wanted to have the information today so that we could have a more full and robust conversation. That ask was made of the administration's budget and finance team. In the proposal, so you know, that we received, it stated, I think, Andorra and Haverford for major capital investment, which is up in the fourth and different parts of the fourth, and it said various projects. And so it doesn't list what those various projects are, what they're targeting, and how much the spend would be. So even the information that we just received, it's a total amount of dollars. So it does not help us as members, and particularly for my district colleagues, identify where the investments will take place. So I want to put that on the record because it's important to us that during this process, we're able to ensure that we are dealing with any and all capital issues as it relates to the Free Library of Philadelphia. And in addition to that, I was going through the detail, but if you could talk about the LEAP program, you know that program is important, and as we continue to want to provide additional space and opportunities for our young people, if you could talk about if the LEAP program will be fully operational this year, and how many TLAs, Teen Leadership Assistants, we'll be able to hire throughout the system. Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Councilwoman, and we really appreciate all that you do for the Free Library of Philadelphia and the obvious love that you have for it. Our literacy enrichment after-school program, that program, we're going to be fully funded for that. And our TLAs, I don't have an exact number. I think I'll have to get back with you with our teen library assistants on how many we'll have on. But that, do we have that number? 100? Okay, awesome. Okay, I forgot I brought a team with me. We're going to have 100 of those. And that particular program, for those who don't know, is an opportunity for teens to come in the library and work and learn job skills and propel them forward to be like a mayor or councilwoman. And we've had some who've come back who work for some of our council. They learn these skills and they provide homework help for our youth throughout the city. So it's a great opportunity to learn job skills. And it's a great opportunity to provide homework help and support for young people throughout the city. I mean, it's a program that is 360-degree benefit of providing support and help for other young people and for young people to actually get job skills in a educational environment, working with our premier staff and picking up skill sets for them. And Literacy Enrichment After School program is programs, help and support for young people, again, throughout the city.
Can we, Director Richards, because I heard the bell and I want to honor the clock, could you all just send to us the recruitment information for the teen leadership assistant positions? Because that's another way to support young people in the summertime and how they interact and interface with the free library system. And then I have to put on the record, particularly for the autism program that I think is stellar, that was started at Winfield Library, that you all are expanding. If you could just give us a response in writing regarding how that program will expand across the free library system. And then finally, I wanted to just mention this for Parks and Rec. The trees. We are getting so many requests for down trees, and I heard Council President talk about this and other colleagues. I think it would be helpful if we get something that just says like what the parameters are, because you know some of the trees that we get, and I know Sue knows this, is technically on the property line for the homeowner. And so as far as the discretion that's utilized to determine, when a tree when it's appropriate for us as council to alert you all to a downed tree, and then when it's technically the property owner's responsibility. We have a lot of cases like that. So if we could just get some education there, that would be exceedingly helpful. And then I just have to put one last thing in for the Dell. The Dell, and the Dell. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilmember Jeffrey J. Young, Councilwoman Jamie Gautier, then Dr. Nina Mott, then Councilman Kendra Brooks, and then we'll be officially in our second round.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to echo the thank yous as well to the staff at Parks and Rec, Capital Projects, and to the library. I know I'm annoying, so we are, but it's just because I care too much, as some would say, about these particular issues. I want more, right? I ask for more. I demand more. And so our children deserve to have more. They deserve to have the best. And I'm not going to hide from that, right? I'm not going to hide from the fact that I want the best for our kids in our city and in my district. I serve some of the most vulnerable kids throughout the city, but particularly for the libraries. So libraries today are not the same as libraries in the past, right? And when there's a need in the community, libraries have often filled that void and evolved with the times to step up to fill those needs for the community. So can you tell us about what ideas or plans, or if any of our current spaces, any of our current library spaces offer, have maker spaces, have podcasting studios, have video editing spaces, have gaming spaces, right? So to attract current teenagers, right? Not teenagers of the past, but current teenagers to come to utilize these spaces.
Thank you, Councilman. Good question. Our focus has been to make sure to get these libraries open for the community. That's been the preeminent issue that we've been focused in on lately. We have a very creative, talented staff who provide programming opportunities throughout our system. We do anywhere from 25,000 to 30,000 programs a year and serves over 600,000 people. And within those programming efforts are STEM and STEAM activities, beekeeping, coding, gaming, I'm outgrown some of the Xbox and all that stuff, but we've have those, chess. We're so varied in the programming opportunities, STEM and STEAM programs that we provide the community, and there's a demand on it. And as we staff up, we'll be able to do even more. So we do quite a bit. We work hard to provide the same opportunities that you're saying for this city. And we're looking to do much more. We're going through a strategic planning process where we'll be receiving input from our young people, talking to them to find out what more do they want. So our goal is literally to be on the cutting edge of providing library services. And as you said, libraries, they're not what they used to be. We're third space, we're a community location where people come for a variety of different services and needs.
But what can you do if these teens, right, the patrons of the library, say they want certain programs, but there just isn't enough physical space in our libraries to provide those opportunities to our citizens?
we have to be creative, you know. Some events, even at our central library, we have outside because they're large. I mean, we could probably do some inside, but I mean, we just have to be, we have to be creative, and I'm talking to you based on what we have now. We have to be creative, our staff is creative, and utilizing, you know, the space that we have.
Thank you. And I heard the bell. I'll come back for another round, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Jamie Gaultier, Councilman Dr. Nina Mai, then Councilman Brooks, then we'll officially be in our second round.
Thank you, Council President. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for all that you do for our city. It's been a pleasure working with both of you and your teams. I wanted to reiterate the Majority Leader's request that we can receive information, and sorry, this is for Director Richards, that we can receive information on which specific library branches are slated for significant renovations or capital improvements in FY26. Additionally, would you be able to provide my office with an update on the current operational status of library branches and for the Commissioner, recreation centers within the 3rd District, detailing which locations are fully operational, under renovation, operating with limited hours, or awaiting future upgrades? And then my questions. First, for Director Richards, I wanted you to outline, with respect to the capital improvements that you aim to make in FY26, what is the criteria for how you will prioritize those projects and make sure that there is equitable distribution across neighborhoods? And then also, can you give us a timeline for that sort of physical assessment that you mentioned, as well as your strategic planning effort? And then for Commissioner Slauson, I'm really worried about our future beyond rebuild. Rebuild has been amazing, and I'm so glad that so many projects in my district and across the city have been renovated, but if we're being honest, there was a lot of deferred maintenance, and I'm scared that we'll get to the same place again. So I wanted to ask you, in terms of the FY26 budget, what are we doing to account for maintenance from a financial perspective? Is there an increase for everyday needs, everyday capital needs, for example? And then secondly, for Commissioner Slauson, in the past we found that the reason that Parks and Recreation has had difficulty filling park positions is because many of them are seasonal and don't offer opportunities year-round, nor is there a reliable path to full-time employment for seasonal workers. So can you speak to what Parks and Rec is doing to address that barrier? And I know that was a lot, so I'm happy to repeat questions if need be.
No, do the last one. Councilmember Gautier, we're going to answer your last question first, and then I'll come back.
Thank you.
Good morning, First Deputy Commissioner Marissa Washington. To answer your question about pathways for our seasonals, one of the things that we have done, especially for our entry-level positions, our recreation outreach worker, ARL, rec leader trainee, and even our grounds maintenance facility worker, we have changed the specs since 2019 multiple times to decrease any barriers for our seasonals to come into full-time employment. Since 2019, and remember during the years of COVID, we did have a hiring freeze, but we had 141 people that were seasonals that are in permanent employment, and that's just from four titles. That does not include administrative positions, where folks have gone from seasonal to administrative positions, clerks, and those sorts of things. So that probably goes up to about 170. So there's an organic thing that happens in Parks and Recreation when people work as seasonals. Their experience qualifies them for full-time, permanent positions within Parks and Recreation. So we do have a pathway. One of the things that we are trying to do more is really communicate those opportunities for folks. Last Saturday, we had a job fair at Mander Recreation Center. It was supposed to be at the Dell Music Center, but because of the weather, we moved it indoors. We had over 250 people come out for that. We're going to transition those folks into about 180 were probably young people. So we're going to give them opportunities in our C2L program during the summer, and also put other folks into either seasonal opportunities or full-time opportunities. The Office of Human Resources was also at Mander Recreation Center with their big bus outside. They shared all of the information, got contact information for folks. Folks even put in applications that same day. So we are moving to decrease the barriers for permanent employment, and I think we've been doing a pretty good job. We're going to continue to move forward. One of the other things that we are doing when we think about skilled trades positions, even working with some of our seasonal staff to get them qualified to get into some of those hard to fill positions with skilled trades. Because it is a challenge not just for the city of Philadelphia, but hiring skilled trades positions is a challenge across the nation. And it's evident by the bonuses that the Office of Human Services has offered to skilled trades, to most of the skilled trades positions.
Thank you so much.
So what was the maintenance question? I'm sorry.
What are we doing to ensure that we don't get back to the place we were, where there was a need for a $400 million capital program, because essentially we just did not take care of maintenance for years? What are we doing every single budget cycle to avoid that, starting with this one?
It was, there's been a neglect in the system for decades. This isn't a couple years of not managing our facilities. There's been years of not addressing regular, everyday challenges. And just like your home, if you have a little leak in your roof and you allow it to go for a year or two and you continue to patch, and it's a 20-year roof, you're going to eventually have a roof that's going to cave in. And so now we're talking facilities throughout the city of Philadelphia. One of the things that's going to make a huge difference is this asset management system that I'm talking about. And we've come up with a system where we are deep cleaning our facilities, and I'm working on coming up with some inspectors to actually go and inspect our facilities, because we have to hold people accountable for what's going on in our systems. And you can't hold people accountable if you're not saying these are some of the challenges. And sometimes when you're working in a facility and you're there day in and day out, you miss some things. And so you just miss some things. But if you have people that are specifically assigned to go around and look to check various items in your facility. I go to the facilities, and so I am looking, and I may be looking for something different, but we're going to have a list of what we should be looking for. We started, I want to say, the second month after I was assigned here, a decluttering of our facilities. We have things that have been in our facilities for 30 years in closets. And so we have a system in place now where we're going throughout all of our facilities and we're decluttering. We're also deep cleaning. We're stripping floors. But then on top of that, we're checking our roofs. We're checking our HVAC systems. But we need a system so when we check it, we're putting it somewhere and we're identifying that it needs to be done. You want to be quiet.
Super quick follow-up.
So you have an asset management
The asset management
that you're
system.
going to be doing moving forward, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Super quick follow-up. One, can you give us the timing on the asset management? And listing what we need to do is wonderful, but we need money, right? And when I came in here this morning, I actually was talking to Dr. Phillips, and we were talking about Denver and how Denver prioritizes their public spaces. You can tell in every public space you go into. So the timing on the asset management, and what are we doing on the money side to take care of these issues?
So I just had my team put a proposal together once identified that we did not have one and we needed one. So I can't honestly give you a timing on it. I know that it's something that I'm working pretty hard to get into place, but I don't have a timing for you.
Okay, if it could be something that you follow up with, that would be great. It's very exciting to hear that. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. When you get a chance, just provide that information to the chair and members of the committee. Very briefly, Chairman of Parks and Rec, your point of information, sir. Dr. Phillips.
Yes, just a point of information. I think that what we're just looking for, and it's something that the commissioner has pointed out, what's important is that we do have annual things that we put in the budget to work towards our parks and rec systems, such as the lighting, all that and more. So that's why I said, I think you answered it earlier, but it's beyond that. You know.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips.
Oh, real quick, she just said.
Thank you, Phillips. The chair recognizes.
I'll bring it up later.
Councilman Dr. Nina Mine. Then
Thank you.
Councilmember Brooks, thank you for waiting patiently. Then we'll go into the second round.
Thank you, Council President. I first want to commend both of you and your departments for not being the traditional frontline essential workers, but you are. Your work actually heads off and stops the problems downstream. So investing in you, both in libraries and parks and recs, is essential for us. And so I'm very glad to see so much engagement around that. I have a quick question about, I'll start with the library system. Do you have a way of looking at the data to see what is the usage of your services across the city? And the reason I'm asking that is I'm sure you're going to, if you've done this already, you probably see it's not equivalent across the city. And based on that, do you deploy resources to those spaces that are underusing libraries and co-locate resources with the library system to serve those underutilized spaces? And I'm thinking of things like mobile libraries or ways to reach people where they are so they can see the library as a way to be an asset to them.
Thank you, Councilperson. I appreciate the question. Good question. Yes, we can look at our data to determine how much of the library is being used, what kinds of materials people are borrowing from the library. You know, we've gotten better with calculating the number of people coming in and out of the door based on a budget request that you approved last year. So we're able to know how many people are in some of our buildings at any moment. So yeah, we can do that. And then we staff too based on the number of people coming in and out, how busy buildings are relative to the size, you know, of the building. So we look at all that data. That is something libraries do. You know, our mobility is not in like a mobile library. We don't have that yet. At one point, the library did, but you know, our staff, you know, we partner with all kinds of other organizations, other nonprofits, different city agencies to provide programming throughout the city. Depending on what the needs are, what the requests are to ask, or even if we just think this is something that should be done. So yes, we do have that data and we do look into it to provide services.
So I just want to make sure, when I was deputy mayor for Jim Kenney's first term, I worked with Play Streets and we took books and you know, these spaces that were closed off to make sure children had food, but we also supplemented with books for the kids and sat and read with them. So that was sort of a model of meeting people where they are. But the follow-through on that, knowing that those were spaces where these things were needed, is what really is a bit concerning, that we know where there's underutilization of these resources, but I don't know what the intersectional follow-up is. That's what I would love to see, both from Parks and Recs and the library, along with other resources. So for example, if we are understanding this particular space is not using the library, and then we overlay that with our proficiency in math and reading, right, from the school district. And if we can then, and then we look at housing needs, or really have a comprehensive look to see how we deploy resources there, because those children who are not having access to these resources, whose experiences are not being broadened, are going to suffer for no fault of their own. So I really want to think more philosophically how we really address the needs of our youngest Philadelphians who cannot advocate for themselves. We have children in certain neighborhoods and families who have this broad-based knowledge. While I appreciate, making sure people have job skills, but we need to make sure they're global citizens who understand the world, and that's where libraries come in. You can travel the whole world just sitting in your library. And so I think while we emphasize making sure job skills and they're ready to put food on their table, we also need food for their mind. And I don't want that to be overlooked because we are so specific on some tangible skills we're giving them. Because you go to some of these well-resourced schools, they're getting that, where those kids are not. So I just want to elevate that issue. And I very quickly would like to pivot to, before you answer, pivot to the Parks and Recs, same thing about how much are we engaging young people to decide on programming. This was one of a conversation I was having yesterday with somebody who is a teacher, and she was saying that the engagement of young people to decide programming in rec centers, she was asking if that happens, right? And do we have things like youth advisory councils for our...
That's the question, Dr.
Yeah, do we have
That's the question.
Pathways for young people to be engaged, to give feedback? What do they want? What do they want in those spaces? What would make them come to those spaces? And do we have advisory councils made of young people who might be able to advise us on that? I really want young people to see that not only are we doing this, but it's for them. And how are we being intentional about showing them that? Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome, Dr. Mai.
I would like a response.
So I'll start. I want to specifically talk about just engaging our young people and finding out what it is that they want. One of the things that we're going to start are listening sessions. When I was here first go around, I did some listening sessions in a specific area, and because it was an area where there were no programs going on for the young people. And as a result of the listening sessions, we ended up not only filling up the space, but having a school next to us pay us for their kids to come. So if you go and find out and have conversations with young people, and you're serious about finding out what they want, they will come. So we are in the process of doing that, and we actually have leaders that work with their kids. We did the esports that's been talked about. We recognized that we had to adapt and just kind of remain relevant to changing interests and the needs of our communities, especially teens, who often are our most vulnerable, and they're hard to engage. It's really challenging to engage them. And so we partnered with Nerd Street Games, a nationally renowned organization whose mission is to increase access to the gaming industry. The partnership produced the following: a teen-driven NBA 2K tournament with over 100 participants, esports coach training for summer camp staff and supervisors, camp trips to Nerd Street local host gaming site, Specialty camp opportunity for 24 youth to attend a full-week esports camp. Esports centers, we have them at 2 of our sites. And thanks to INET, we'll be able to actually get more e-sites. But this is a direct result of what you're saying, having conversations with our young people and identifying what it is they need. But then once you do that, you got to actually do the work.
Thank you for that.
At the library to address, how we address your comments. We've got teen librarians and youth librarians who work in our library, and they're talking to young people every day. We have a youth services coordinator who oversees, all of our district-centered programming and efforts for the whole city. So, and through that role, we're partnering with other nonprofits, other organizations, looking at what those overall city needs are. But individually, by neighborhood, we have staff in those locations. Sue and I, we're like symbiotic. But some people want to read and come in the library and do arts and culture and do those kind of events after they finish, recreational activities. And so we're communicating with them. Sue's team's communicating with them too. So we're hearing what they're wanting and what they're needing, and we're not just solely focused on, job skills. We're focused on their mind. And, one of the things about the library, you can go in the library and you can leave the universe. You can go anywhere. Travel through a black hole, those kinds of things, and that creativity and the story times and the things we do to just enlighten and inspire young people. And we just have, staff that's what they do on a regular and daily basis, and we're listening to the young people. And that's why we can have 26 to 30,000 programs, because we're hearing from them and what they want, what's going to inspire them and their friends.
Thank you.
Council President Johnson, can I just say this? And I also wanted to say we do have youth councils in our facilities.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the presence of Councilmember Brian O'Neill. Councilmember Brooks.
Thank you, Council President. I think I'm going to start with a combined question for Parks and Rec around
Member Brooks, could you speak into the microphone, please?
Yes, around the asset management systems, because it's around the same line that I was going with the library system. We see that the school district of Philadelphia is in crisis now for the similar situation, and I was wondering if both of you could both kind of work on a plan so we can figure out long-term structure for Parks and Rec as well as the libraries moving forward, so we know what we need to do in the next 20 to 30 years. To secure our building, and thank you so much for starting that progress. And then I wanted to kind of comment off of Councilmember Gautier mentioned Level Up. I visited the program as well, and they're doing an amazing job, and it would be nice if you, Parks and Rec and the library system, connect with these young folks and the leader of that group for next steps and how can we integrate them back in the system. And my other question was around workers, primarily for municipal guards and library assistant. I asked, what is the process around hiring for that? And if you can give us something in writing around exactly what are we doing to make sure that these positions are filled and that they have a livable wage, because I heard that they were paid kind of low. I'm not sure what the exact dollar amount is, but these are the folks that keep our libraries running. And my last thing, I want to talk about Carousel House. I read about it in the paper. I know we all saw that. And I was wondering, what are the next steps for folks with disabilities around the city to have access? Because now a 2-year project is going to be 10, 7, my numbers are mixed up, because I know they closed during COVID, and it was the premier project for folks with disabilities to be able to have access to sports and rec, and now we're talking about 2028, and that's problematic. And to that, they had a wheelchair accessible pool, and I know we expanded ramps and wheelchair accessibility on pools around the city, but what is the status of that? Because the promise is that there will be one wheelchair accessible pool in every district, and I wonder, are we there yet?
So the wheelchair program is still being housed at two of our sites, Mayfair, Where they used to be able to go to one location, which was the Carousel House, now they have to go to Mayfair, and they also use our Gustine Lake location, and they're also using some space over in New Jersey for the actual tournament, because they used to do the tournament at the School of the Future. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. It's an amazing program, and it's something that we want to continue to be a part of. We want to bring it back, and I do know that Aparna can speak to the Carousel House and what's happening there, so she will come and address that. But you had another question in
I
there.
was wondering about, I know Gustine and the other two are the two rec centers that were kind of allocated for special needs folks, but however, people with special needs live in every community. So I think if we're not going to use the Carousel House for much longer, we need a long-term plan to make sure that folks with varying abilities have the ability to enjoy our parks and rec system. And the problem being is that transportation is hard. Like having to depend on CCT and all the things, wheelchair accessible vans, the burden of responsibility on caregivers is so great when this is a necessary need in our community. So I would love to see a broader vision or a plan around accessibility of our parks and recreation centers as well as libraries, because this is a growing population for various reasons, and we need to make sure that we're accommodating them as Philadelphia citizens.
That was your other question, the pool lifts. We are, I knew it was another question before I get up, Aparna. We are in the process of completing our system and getting pool lifts for all of our sites.
Okay, thank you. Will it be complete for this summer, or it's going to expand into, because we've had, this is way before you were here. This was 2020, 2021, during the COVID pandemic, when they changed, where everyone was broke. It was like two working in the city. Where are we going to be if, Carousel House is not open until 2028 and we have a huge accessibility issue in our city?
The plan is to have all of the pool lifts by the end of next summer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Brooks. Before we go into the brief second round, because we have a hard stop at 12:30, I just had a question. Why is it taking so long for us to fix and reopen the Carousel House? Just wanted to know.
Councilmember Brooks, thank you for that question, Council President. With regards to Carousel House, there have been, first of all, it had to close due to conditions. There were a number of roof issues which resulted in structural issues, so it would have closed regardless of the project. As far as the rebuild project goes, it is in design. We've just negotiated, we are continuing design for that project. After COVID, prices did certainly go up. So we had to align the scope of the project with the resources we had. The administration did put in more money. So we are at a point now that we can move forward with the scope of that work. Design is ongoing, and we expect to start construction next year, which results in the 2-year construction duration. With regards, however, I would like to make a global statement if I could. In terms of inclusive projects at Parks and Recreation, that has become the norm for every site that we do a capital project at. We don't add that as sort of a feature. We include that in the design of all the spaces. So every playground, every spray ground, every building, all of that inherently is accessible to folks, to everyone, to every Philadelphian.
Like we're required to do that, but what are we doing for? It's a slow process.
Speaking to the microphone, Member Brooks.
I said I appreciate that because that's the law. That's what ADA tells us that we need to do. But what are we doing for sites that aren't, if the backlog for a project that started in 2021 is 2028? What are we going to do for generations of young people with special needs that won't be able to access our parks and rec? If you think about 8 years, that's kindergarten through middle school.
And I know Parks and Recreation, as Commissioner Slauson did mention, has relocated some of that programming to other sites so that we continue to serve those populations.
Okay, because I just would like to see a comprehensive plan on what are we doing for people with disabilities in our city, across city agencies, so it's not just you. City Hall is not that accessible, municipal buildings aren't that accessible, parks, recs, libraries. We need to have a comprehensive plan because our children and citizens need that, and I just would like to see a clear plan and not allowing people to be left behind.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. We will now go into a brief second round. I just have one quick question, or two small ones. One, and I think it's been touched on, I still want to go on the record on it because I have a couple constituents that will call on my district team, wanted me to make sure I have it on the record, addressing the issue of heating at recreational facilities during the winter time. And so is there a comprehensive plan for us to do analysis of our heating systems at our recreational facilities, and also cameras was also a major request regarding making sure we have equitable camera coverage of the rec centers across the district, particularly in the second.
Yes, with regards to your first question, Council President, we have, with all of our client agencies this year, libraries included, Parks and Recreation, set aside money for assessments of facilities. It's something that was last done in 2005, so we're 20 years, we're at the end of life cycle of pretty much everything in a building at this point. So that is something we have decided to do across all city facilities to be able to better program for the out years for the projects that need to be done. And so that, of course, includes heating systems as well as roofs, et cetera. And then we will prioritize based on those assessments the most critical projects and put those into the 5-year plan for funding. With regards to cameras, we have a handful of sites that are remaining in the camera program, and we can get you a updated list of where cameras are installed. There's over 2,500 in the system in Parks and Recreation currently, and there are some sites that are in construction. So every site that goes into construction does receive cameras as well as part of the project.
Thank you very much. This is a lightning round. The chair recognizes the following members: Councilmember Cindy Bass, Dr. Phillips, O'Rourke, Harity, and Young.
Thank you,
Vice Chair Bass, and who actually introduced the bill and provided the funding for the cameras. Kicked it off at Marion Anderson Rec Center in South Philly.
Yes, we did kick it off in the second district. Thank you very much for accommodating us. And I want to just, as a reminder, the camera program was supported by all members of council, all district members, who made a commitment to use their ITEF funding to ensure that we had cameras, you know, in a faster time frame. So thanks to all the members who were there, and thanks to those who are there now who are still continuing to see this project through. And I did want to ask about the cameras. Can you give us an update on exactly how many cameras are installed? I believe we should have touched all of our sites by now, but I know that there are a number of sites that are requesting additional cameras.
Thank you for that question, Councilmember Bass. And I actually remember you making sure that you worked with your fellow council members to get this program up and running. And so to date, we have 2,228 cameras in our system. The actual list of how many cameras, where they are, how many you have in your site, we have that. And Council President, I will submit that to you so you could submit it to council. We have 13 centers and playgrounds and 7 other PPR sites where cameras will be have been installed since January 2024 until now. That was 13 centers. We have 174 total sites that have been outfitted with cameras. We have 6 under construction. And I have all those locations for you, but it would take, you would probably tell me to be quiet if I started listing them. We also have 9 sites that are in design, but we have 27 sites that remain to be designed, and there's an estimated cost of $1.25 million for those cameras, those 27 cameras to be designed. But I will present that information to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
That would be great. Can I just say one other thing real quick? I did want to acknowledge our library director and thank him for his outstanding work, particularly around you and your team's outstanding work, particularly around the Nicetown Tioga Library, which was closed during the great earthquake of 2024 here in Philadelphia. You know, somehow the library was affected, you know, But I did want to thank you for that, and also wanted to make mention, for those who don't know, that that's the only library in the city of Philadelphia that has a job center operating out of it in partnership with my office and NY and Opportunities, Myra Brown, and the Free Library of Philadelphia. So we offer job training, resume writing, interviewing skills, career fairs, all kinds of things at the library in the neighborhood. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for that. And really quickly, the playground and inclusion bill, I noticed you mentioned that Councilman Driscoll was getting some upgrades. We passed a bill, I think it was like 2016, for the playground inclusion bill, would that require that all sites, as they're addressed, as they're being renovated, will be upgraded to include additional needs for those who are disabled and for seniors. And so I know you mentioned that Councilman Driscoll was getting that, but I was hoping that that's sort of the standard across the board. And I know we're short on time, so you don't have to answer that now, but if you could just respond in writing to the council president, that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes Councilmember Phillips.
Thank you. I just wanted to quickly comment on the point of information and then go into the question. Yes, one of the things that we did on our PPR walks and tours, we noticed that there's paint things that we can do, small things through capital funded paint. It could be pavement, it could be walls. I think I just want to note that the commissioner has committed to working on some sort of plan around that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. And I thank you also, Director Richards, for working on your long-term plan as well around infrastructure, as Councilman Gaudier mentioned. A quick question for Director Richards. What plans are in place to ensure expanded hours are supported with high-quality programming at our rec centers? And then talk about the marketing plan that you have that you're going to be working on to market some of the high-quality programs that are happening in our rec centers. And then also for our commissioner, if you could just really briefly speak on the programming that our rec centers need, that we've observed around our boxing program, as well as our gaming program, and other like mentorship type programs as well. And then the last thing is just this, a list of, what would you do with more capital project funding? How many in your capital project budget, you have about $12 million that are probably set aside for just already established rebuild projects, as well as ITEF, but you don't have much money to do maintenance, from what I observed. So how much more money could you use for that? Thank you, done.
You want to provide half of that in writing? Because we're not going to get it in right now, just to be frank. So how you want to handle it, Dr. Phillips? Answer what you can, the rest in writing, please, because I want my other members to get their line of questioning in before we bang the gavel at 12:30.
Start first quickly. We'll try to do some of that in writing, because in regards to programming and future programming for libraries and our communications plan, I can talk about that for a long time. But I will say our communications plan, it's new. We have a new communications department and a new communications lead, and we're building out that department. One of the things about the library and the types of programming that we have, sometimes it could be a hidden secret to just the people who know. So we're going to be, with our new comms leadership in our department, we're going to be pushing out that information, social media, and throughout the community, in a variety of different ways to promote what our library staff are doing in the branches, because they've done a great job over the years doing it themselves, but now we're going to be doing it centralized with their support. But the number of programming that we're going to be doing in our branches, that's just going to increase the more hours that we're open, the more staff we have. And the centralized programming that we now are able to do, if significantly because of the budget that the council's given us and the mayor,
Thank you,
Just
Mr.
expect our
Richards.
numbers to increase.
Thank you, sir. The chair recognizes Councilmember Young, Harity, and Isaiah Thomas. You have a brief one because we're stopping at 12:30.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a capital question. I was recently, I guess, quoted that it will cost about $700,000 to do a study for a plan or plans for a rec center in my district. But the whole study for Market East is like $750,000. Can you tell us like why it costs this much to just prepare a study to help renovate, one of our rec centers?
Councilmember Young, if you could just be a little more specific on perhaps the project or the size of the project.
So Dindy, right?
I'm sorry?
Dindy, right? We were quoted as saying it will cost $700,000 to just prepare like the design and plans and all that stuff just for that one center. But we putting forth a study for Market East area that costs $725, $750, whatever that is. Like, can you tell us the cost discrepancy in that?
Thank you for providing that clarity. So design costs are typically anywhere from 8 to 12% of a final construction cost for a project. So the scope of work at Dendy, which potentially included an expansion of a building and some major site improvements, were probably of the magnitude that resulted in that estimate for design costs.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Member Young. Chair recognizes Councilmember Harity, then Councilmember O'Rourke, and then finishing Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I will be brief. How many city recreation centers are closed due to construction with the rebuild program right now? And how does the success of rebuild projects compare to similar projects that have been completed by Parks and Rec itself? In other words, I'm trying to find out where the disconnect is, why this rebuild stuff is taking so much longer than, I don't want to say that I know,
She
but I feel.
understands the question. Could you respond, please?
Certainly. So with regards to your first question, the number of sites closed, it changes on a daily basis. So we will get you that in writing. Some have come out of construction and some are going in. With regards to the second question about the duration, the rebuild projects are generally much larger in scope. Typically, we don't have a $20 million Parks and Rec capital project, so that is one of the primary reasons it's taken so long for rebuild projects to be completed. The second is, as you may have seen, we've adjusted some process internally to expedite those projects, and we've been able to find other contracting mechanisms, typical city process, for example, to be able to move those along quicker.
Okay, I mean, I just feel as though that it kind of ran a little bit more smoother when you guys were in control of everything. I think sometimes when you...
Speaking to the microphone,
I think sometimes when you get a lot of consultants and all involved and they have to justify their salaries, things tend to take longer.
Thank you. Understood.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilmember Nicholas O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. President. The rec staff, as well as the Rangers, Commissioner Slauson, are reporting chronic shortages of essential tools like radios and flashlights, vehicles that need maintenance, poor lighting, which I heard you appreciate, already mentioned that you want to do more on that, but also significant delays in how supplies are actually distributed, especially with the summer programs just around the corner. As I know that you're already thinking about quite a bit about, we can all sympathize with the pain of not having what you need when you need it. How was the 26 budget addressing the persistent supply and infrastructure gaps, and what steps is the department taking to ensure timely, equitable delivery of the materials and the equipment the staff actually needs, frontline workers needs across all those sites?
Good afternoon. So we are working with our Ranger unit. We meet with them regularly, so we're in a process of working with Fleet to get vehicles, to get the lights on the vehicles, to get all the equipment that they need and training, whether it is getting electric bikes or those sorts of things. So we are working on that process now. It is a procurement process. Hopefully we will have most of the supplies in this summer, but we have been working to identify exactly what supplies our Rangers need, also what training that they need to make sure that they are safe and that they can do their jobs effectively. And this is not just for our permanent rangers, but we hire about 15 to 16 seasonal rangers to help us during the height of our season. So we're bringing those folks on now. Hopefully all of them will be on if they kind of, go through the onboarding process quickly. They'll all be on by the end of June.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Member O'Rourke. Member Thomas, and then we're wrapping up with O'Neill. I have to be brief because we had to stop at 12:30. We've been here since 10.
Good to go, Councilman.
Sir.
First of all, good morning. This is my first line of questioning. So, Commissioner, thank you for last night. Councilmember Bass's district, along with other elected officials, understand it's a late night going into an early morning. I'm wondering from both of you, how much of a priority is it to use your facilities to help promote, push, and encourage the creative economy? We spoke before about gaming in libraries as well as in rec centers. I'm thinking about the film industry. I'm thinking about music. What are we doing to be creative and innovative to make sure that our spaces are not only welcoming to the creative economy, but we are encouraging the next generation to maximize their God-given talent while simultaneously creating space for adults who want to be professionals to use our facility to maximize their ability?
So for our youth, we have a performing arts program that is phenomenal. And yeah, they just gave me notes. I'm going off the top of my head. But, and I would love to invite you, and I'm going to be quick, but as far as other people that are adults that want to engage, we have facilities where we would love for them to come in and use those spaces.
We provide a lot of those activities now, and what I could do is put something in writing to let you know what we do and what some of the numbers are.
Council President, I just want to go on the record and continue to push us as a city to do better as it relates to promoting the creative economy. I've been advocating a lot around gaming, thinking about the film industry, thinking about the arts industry. 2026 is on the horizon. We want to make sure that people could perform and maximize their talent in safe spaces. We want to attract people here to our city, and we want to partner with our rec centers and our libraries to make sure that young people and tourists can take advantage of this. Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome, absolutely.
Council President, can I throw something in? It'll take me 60 seconds, maybe.
Sure.
So we have a program called Making Spaces, which I think you'd really be interested in. PPR's Entrepreneur and Residence Initiative is focused on youth training, mentorship, and business development with the support of the Knight Foundation and in partnership.
Was that
my 60 seconds?
Because we're going to put this down for the record, but this is his mission and he's passionate about it as well. So how about y'all get together after this and then really put that strategy together?
No problem.
So it can become a reality as opposed to us just having a hearing about it. He's going to stay on the case, all right?
Okay.
Thank you. O'Neill, very briefly. I'm going to bang
Very
the gavel,
brief.
sir.
I don't know any other way. Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to just thank you on behalf of the Philadelphia Activities Fund, Commissioner, both during the Kennedy administration as a mayoral appointment and now as our ex officio appointment to the board. You've been not only supportive, but integral to the changes that have been made, that needed to be made, and were very difficult to happen. But following up on Councilman Harity and the rebuild project, I could speak all afternoon on my contempt for it, but it's only as much contempt as I have for the soda tax, which we could have funded everything else but rebuild with operating dollars. Regressive, you name it, unfair, but can you or revenue through your request get each district a summary of how much their constituents have paid in soda tax? We're now approaching 10 years, and how the rebuild money has been spread among the districts, because every year we get the same amount of money for our districts, and that's long before I got to council, that practice. And I think it's a very good one, but no one ever asked us to criticize the program, and they've spent years working with Capital, some of the best people in this city. There's so many good people, you hate to single them out, but Whether it's your operating people, your capital people, they are just first class. And just wanted to say, if you can get me that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I can get that give that to you, sir.
Sure, thank you very much. I want to thank the both of you for your testimony, and keep up the good work. Thank you, members. We will be back at 1:30.